Hey everybody, it's Holly here today with a new video for MarkerPop. We're going to be using one of the new Lawn Fawn sets called Pizza My Heart. And then later on I'm going to be using a new My Favorite Things stamp set called Distress Patterns. We're going to start out by stamping the images onto a piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock using some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And this set comes with a bunch of great little faces, like most Lawn Fawn sets do, and it's come with lots of little pizza toppings and two shapes of pizza, a pizza box, and some fun sayings. So this is a really fun set to make some really cute Valentines with. So I'm just adding a couple different toppings to my pizza, and I'm using the heart-shaped one. And then once I get everything laid out the way I want it, we're going to go ahead and color it in with the Copics. And for the crust today, we're going to start out with E53. I know in the video here I'm using E55. That was a boo-boo. So we're actually starting out with E53. And then we're going to work our way into E55 and E37. And those are going to be the three colors I use for the crust on both the pizza and the slice. And I'm going to work from my light to my medium to my dark, and then backwards from the dark to the medium to the light. And then I like to go back in with a tiny bit of my darkest color while the paper's still wet, and then it just kind of fades out on its own. But it gives some nice depth and shadow in the areas where you want that. So while the video is sped up some, I did slow it down a little bit more than normal, so you could see some of the coloring. I know I usually speed it up really fast. And I had a horrible time with this video. I just had so many things that went wrong. Like starting out with the first one with using the wrong color of the Copic marker. I had them all laid out on my desk and I just grabbed the wrong color. So there was a lot of editing, you could say. So once I get the crust all colored, I'm going to move on to the slice and work with that as well since I have the markers out. So it's E53. And then I'm just bringing in the E55 and the E37 in from the edges. When you're using this color combo, it does kind of create like a bluish gray color look to it while it's still wet, but you really want to make sure you go back over that E55 with the E53 at the end there. Once it dries, it kind of evens out some and you don't really see that grayish color. And then for the center of the pizza, I'm going to go ahead and start with Y21, and then Y23, and then YR24. So I'm going in with Y21, and then I'm going to go in and add a little bit of YR24, and then I'm going to come back with Y23. And then I left a little highlight there, and then I actually once again grabbed the wrong color of marker. I added E42, and that was not the correct color. It totally washed out my image, and I didn't feel like it looked the way I wanted it to. So I re-stamped another one, as you can see there on my paper. But I just let it dry and went on to the pizza crust. I mean the heart-shaped pizza, and then I ended up going back to it. You'll see, and I just add a little bit more color to it, and it actually looks fine. So me using that E42 for the moment wasn't the greatest mistake. So same thing on the heart-shaped pizza. I started out with Y21, and then I went in with the YR24. I went back in with the Y23, and then back in with the Y21. And then I'm adding the YR24 just around a partial of each of the images of the toppings to kind of create like a shadow effect. And it's just random. You just add a little bit and then it blended out some with your Y21. I wanted to have it look like it has texture, so I wasn't really worried about having a super great blend. So here I was just trying to fix that slice of pizza. I just went back in with the YR24 and then back in with the Y23 and the Y21. and it actually lightened up on its own, so I was able to rescue it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out with my scissors. This set does come with a coordinating die. Well, I'm going to color the vegetables first. So we're going to use E42 and E44 for the mushrooms. And then for my little slices of pineapple, I'm going to use Y11, Y13, and Y17. I'm essentially just making little dots because it's such a small little area. And then for my slices of Canadian bacon, I'm using R81, R83, and then Rv93 because I wanted to tone down that pink a little bit and make it have a little bit of a purple hue to it. And then once I have that complete, I'm going to go ahead and cut them out with my scissors. And once I have my images cut out, I'm going to go ahead and cover the edges with a Memento Tuxedo black marker, and this just finishes up the edges and gives it a nice clean look to it. And if you aren't great at fussy cutting and you have any kind of uneven edges, adding that black marker will help even things out a little bit for you. So then here's the first card I was tinkering with. So we're going to use the distress patterns to create a splatter effect in the background. So I have a piece of Nina Solaroid cardstock, and it's cut to 4 by 5.5. And this is the My Favorite Things Distress Pattern set. We're going to use the Lawn Fawn Plastic Flamingo ink. This is a new stamp set, so it hasn't really been used. I only used it once. So when you first stamp with these Lawn Fawn inks, something that I've noticed with some clear stamps is you're not going to get a really good impression. So what I do is I go back in with the Versamark ink first, then go back over it with the ink, and then stamp, and it gives you much better coverage. This isn't something you have to do all the time with the Lawn Fawn inks. It just seems to work with stamps when they're brand new and they haven't been used a lot and you haven't cleaned them. So I think if you stamped them on some scrap paper and conditioned them some, the ink wouldn't separate like that. But I have that problem with my Ultra inks as well. But once I use a stamp set that's been used a million times, I get a great solid impression with my Lawn Fawn inks. So I'm just using several of the inks from this splatter set. Not inks, several of the stamps from the splatter set. I'm just creating a little background there. And I'm using just the plastic flamingo color. And then I'm going to go ahead and place the sentiment. I'm going to line up my images to kind of get an idea of where I want my sentiment to be. I'm using the sentiment that says, "You have a piece of my heart." I'm going to use my little guide, plastic guide here, my Misty tool. I'm going to go off camera for just a second while I kind of use my head to see what I'm doing there. And you'll notice the same thing. I've only stamped this once, and I'm using the Lawn Fawn Black Licorice ink. And on my first impression, the ink starts to pull up on the stamp, and it didn't give me a really good impression, which is one of the good things about the Misty. So I just put some Versamark down, stamp the ink back over it, and stamp it again, and it's a perfect impression. So after I have my sentiment stamped down, I just went ahead and I'm going to add a couple little hearts around the sentiment. In the stamp set, there's this tiny little solid heart. I'm going to stamp that with the plastic flamingo ink. I'm going to add 2 on the right side and 1 on the left side. And once again, I was having trouble with my ink not working very well. Sorry, I'm off camera there a little bit. I just stamped the 2 hearts. Then I'm going to go ahead and add the images to the top of the card using some dimensional adhesive. And then I went ahead and created an A2 size top folding card base out of black cardstock. Just added some adhesive, and I'm going to add it to the center of the card where it leaves about 1/8 of an inch on each side. You want to try to get it straight, unlike what I was doing there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some Pretty Pink Posh Sparkling Clear Sequins. This is the mix that has the 8, 6, and 4 millimeter sizes. And I'm going to go ahead and place them down, kind of figuring out my placement. And I'm going to use some Ranger Multimedia Matte to adhere the sequins. I added 5 to each card. And that pretty much wraps up my card for today, so thanks for stopping by and watching. Be sure to head over to the MarkerPop blog for more details on the products that I used.